Anna is now ready to start her responsible job. But before we let her do that, we must look at two important things: the rules for offloading and loading pigs. Let's start with offloading. In the case of red herds, purchased pigs must be delivered to the isolation area and kept in isolation for 42 days. Animals coming from a sus joint herd or partial sus joint herd are exempt from this isolation requirement. While this is not mandatory for blue SPF herds, we recommend that you still isolate the purchased breeders, because it significantly reduces the risk of disease being introduced. The isolation area must have a special entrance room where individuals change their clothes and wash their hands. The isolation area must be independent of all other areas. Therefore, it can only be accessed via the special entrance room. Remember, if you have been inside the isolation area, you must be isolated afterwards for at least 12 hours. So if there are no other personnel who can take care of tasks in the isolation area, it would be a good idea if you carried out the work there at the end of the day. The offloading ramp must be cleaned and disinfected before loading. The herd area must not be accessible during offloading. During offloading, the SPF driver must not enter the piggery and personnel must not enter the SPF truck. Once the pigs have been received, cleaning and disinfection must be carried out within 24 hours. Pigs from a SPF herd can be loaded in one of 5 ways. 1. Direct loading of weaners, breeding pigs, from a herd area to an empty SPF transporter. 2. Loading to a conventional, non-approved lorry with a finisher or livestock trailer. 3. Loading via a loading area. 4. Sectional loading of weaners or finishers. 5. Direct loading of weaners or finishers to a conventional non-approved lorry. The animals must only be directly loaded onto an empty, clean and disinfected SPF truck or to the herd owner's own approved SPF pig trailer. Direct loading from a blue SPF herd to an empty conventional lorry can be approved under certain conditions. The loading ramp must be cleaned and disinfected immediately before loading. The pigs are driven from the pens or piggery section out to the lorry via a serviceway or aisle. The driver must not enter the piggery and personnel must not enter the transporter. Rejected pigs can be returned to the piggery, even though they have been on a SPF truck or SPF pig trailer. They cannot be returned if they have been on a conventional, non-approved lorry. After the pigs have been loaded, the ramp must be cleaned and disinfected within 24 hours. Another way to load pigs is via a loading area. Normally it is finisher pigs that are loaded in this fashion, where abattoir trucks collect the pigs. The loading area must only house the pigs that are to be transported on the truck. The door between the loading area and the piggery must be closed and locked when the finisher truck arrives for loading. After the pigs have been loaded, the loading area must be cleaned and disinfected within 12 hours. It is the finisher truck driver who must drive the pigs from the loading area into the truck. Rejected pigs cannot return to the herd area. It is important that you are aware that personnel cannot enter the loading area during the loading and for at least 12 hours after the loading. If this happens, they must be isolated from the herd's piggery section for 12 hours. The loading area must be cleaned and disinfected after every loading. Cleaning must be done from outside. If a SPF truck already holds some pigs from another herd, loading must take place via the herd owner's own SPF pig trailer. If a conventional lorry already has pigs on it when it arrives, for example a finisher lorry, it is also recommended loading takes place via the SPF pig trailer or finisher trailer. The loading ramp must be cleaned and disinfected immediately before loading. The transporting of breeders or weaners from the herd area to a remote SPF herd location must be done using an approved SPF pig trailer. If dealing with finishers, you can use a finisher trailer or a SPF pig trailer. Remote loading, reloading must take place at least 100 meters from red herds and as far away as possible from blue herds. All of the loading facilities, that is, the loading area, the fold and the ramp and transporter, must be cleaned and disinfected and placed under 12 hours isolation after loading is complete. Blue herd weaners or finishers can in some cases be directly loaded to a conventional non-approved lorry, but only if certain requirements are met. In principle, you must comply with the regulations that apply to the loading of animals to an approved SPF transporter. The loading ramp must be cleaned and disinfected before loading can begin. The driver must not enter the piggery, and personnel must not enter the transporter. Rejected pigs cannot return to the herd. The loading ramp must be cleaned and disinfected after every loading. Sectional loading of weaners or breeders can take place in some cases when certain special requirements are met. For example, an entire section must be emptied and none of the pigs can return to the piggery. Sectional loading can take place in one of two ways. 1. The driver collects the pigs in the section. 2. Personnel help to drive the pigs out to the truck. No matter which way the loading is done, it is important to ensure that all of the pigs in the section can be transported. So the pigs must be examined before the truck reverses to the loading ramp. The loading ramp must be cleaned. Sectional loading can take place in one of two ways. If the driver is to personally collect the pigs from the section, then personnel must leave the section first. The door to the herd area is locked from within the herd area. The section is now a loading area. The driver collects the pigs in the section that is now functioning as a loading area. If personnel are to help to drive the pigs out to the truck, they must do it this way. The door to the section is locked from within the herd area. The section is now a loading area. Personnel enter the section from outside, dressed in outdoor workwear. In this example, the personnel wear red workwear. They drive the pigs out to the truck. They leave the section via the ramp and can now change into the correct workwear in the entrance room and enter the herd. The section must be cleaned and disinfected after every loading, no matter which method is used. Cleaning must be done from outside. The section must be left to dry before any pigs are allowed into the section. The health of the pigs has absolutely the highest priority in every SFP herd. You have a special responsibility for the health of the herd and must always be extra vigilant for signs of changes in pig behavior or for any other sign of illness. If you discover symptoms of illness, tell your employer immediately, who will then contact the vet for further instruction. Here are some examples of what you should be especially vigilant about. Several pigs exhibiting loss of appetite is often a sign of illness. Coughing, especially constant coughing, i.e. more than 24 to 48 hours for an individual pig or several pigs at the same time. Signs of itching or asbestoid incrustation in the ears, throat or other areas. Lice crawling on the pigs. Crooked snouts. Sneezing or nosebleeds. Bloody diarrhea. Any signs of illness which you must report immediately to your employer. Newborn piglets that look weak or have an abnormally high death rate can be a sign of disease in the herd. Pigs that show signs of nervous disorder can also be a sign of disease. Anna has now completed her training concerning the most important rules for looking after a SPF herd, and is now well able to take on the duties of her responsible job at Gamborg. The Danish Agriculture and Food Council